The world-famous Iguazu Falls rise above where the Rio Paraná meets the Rio Iguazu on the Brazilian-Argentinian border. It's a vision of paradise. Just a few kilometers upstream is Paraguay. The Bridge of Friendship on the road to Ciudad del Este is one of the most dangerous border crossings on Earth. Every day starts with a traffic jam. During rush hour, drivers might have to wait for hours to cross the bridge into Paraguay. Many foreigners hunt for bargains here, providing targets for robbers. Paraguayan President Fernando Lugo has created a special tourist police to protect them. Commissioner Pablo Rios patrols his beat once an hour.
The tourist police of Paraguay have three main functions: to protect the tourists and to inform and to assist when they come to this part of the country.
The commissioner claims that there have in fact been fewer robberies of foreigners, but he's no statistics to back this up. Most of the goods for sale in Ciudad del Este are counterfeit, but that doesn't keep the bargain hunters from buying them. Among the merchandise being smuggled and traded is currency. This border region has always been a devil's playground. On the edge of town is the Itaipu hydroelectric power plant, the most efficient in the world and Paraguay's showcase achievement. It supplies electricity for the entire country. The reservoir is 170 kilometers long and holds 29 billion cubic meters of water. The power plant's full name is Itaipu Binacional. It's a joint project between Paraguay and Brazil. Some 40,000 Indios had to be resettled to build the reservoir. Each country supplied exactly half the workforce. The control station regulates the power flow, putting the plant's 20 turbines on or offline according to demand. Itaipu's clocks keep their own time independently of the time zones on either side of the border. 145 people died in its construction. The technical director details what it was they died for.
With 94,684 megawatts, we broke our own record in 2008. The fact that Itaipu reached this capacity is a tribute to the workers who did it. It's the largest in the world.
We travel 350 kilometers due west. Here on the border to Argentina is Paraguay's capital, Asuncion. With a population of some 500,000, it's also Paraguay's largest city. It lies on the river which gave the country its name. Asuncion is an easygoing city with a compact, readily navigable centre. The architecture is colonial, even if most of it was built in the 1800s, after independence. The majority of Asuncion's and Paraguay's population are mestizos of mixed European and Guarani indigenous descent. Asuncion's climate is pleasant, almost Mediterranean, with hot summers and mild winters. A major problem is poverty. Not far from the city centre, the slums begin. Unusual for a capital city, the palace of Paraguay's President Fernando Lugo is within sight of the slums. Among the largest of Paraguay's many minorities are the ethnic Germans. The Colegio Alemán Concordia is a private school run by Mennonites, an Anabaptist denomination. Folk dance is a required part of the curriculum. It's regarded as an aspect of the German students' cultural identity. A celebration marks the first day of school. The principal, Ewald Wieler, personally grills the bratwurst for his students. He was born and raised among Paraguay's Mennonites.
We feel at home here. We have Spanish-speaking friends. Here in the school, you hardly ever see the kids sticking with their own ethnic groups. The dark and blonde-haired ones mix. I don't see any problem.
Castellano. ¿Qué color? Rosado.
Students at the Colegio Alemán Concordia devote much of their time to learning languages. In addition to German, they have to learn Paraguay's two official languages, Spanish and Guarani, an indigenous language widely spoken in rural areas.
The children often say, "Miss, why do we have to learn Guarani when we're not Indios?" But it's necessary because Guarani is an official language here in Paraguay. Everything's 50-50, Castellano and Guarani. So it's a required subject. 80% of the people speak Guarani, maybe not fluently, but they always use Guarani expressions. For example, they'll say, "How pe," which means, "And what shall we do later on today?"
We travel on into the Gran Chaco, 450 kilometers north of Asuncion. The deeper into the Chaco plains, the rougher the terrain, and the flora, which is mostly dry forest and savanna scrub. Among the very few settlers here are once again the Mennonites, in scattered, far-flung colonies, such as Fernheim, with its capital Philadelphia, population 7,000. The streets have German names. The Avenida Hindenburg is Philadelphia's main street. This was the only land that hadn't been claimed, and it was the least desirable, so it was given to the Mennonites arriving from Russia. The Mennonites put their faith in God and hard work to make the land arable. Today, most of their descendants live from cattle ranching, as here on the Estancia Iparoma. The lack of fresh water is a chronic problem in the Chaco. It often doesn't rain for months. Hedwig Epp was born and raised in the Chaco.
Sometimes it's very hard to find water. My husband dug 11 wells and always hit brackish water. And then we had a man who went looking with a divining rod, and we dug on the other side. I took the rod too, and it pointed down right at the same place.
The Iparoma spreads over 1,200 hectares. Normally it'll support the same number of cattle, 1 per acre. But now, for lack of water, only half as many can survive here. The ranchers are cross-breeding cattle to make them better adapted to the harsh conditions of the Chaco. Norbert Epp is a third-generation cattle rancher.
The white cattle are an Indian breed. They're known for their resistance to aridity, drought, and disease here in the Chaco. And the brown ones there are a mostly European breed. They're known for better quality meat. So we're trying to cross the two breeds to obtain a better meat product.
40 kilometers from the ranch is a village of the Yalva Sangha Native Americans with 560 families. The enduring drought in the Chaco has hit the Indios especially hard. Chief Eduardo Taicrib is worried about the future of his band.
For many years now, we've been waiting for the assistance we need to drill a deeper well. The resources we have are just not sufficient. The money isn't there. The whole village is dreaming of a well.
For lack of clean water, the families drink contaminated water. Diarrhea and other diseases are the result. A family of 5 sleeps in this one hut. The only assistance the government has sent in a long time was a sack of beans and a sack of rice per family, and they were used up long ago. Educational opportunities do exist. Children go to primary school in the village, and the older students can go on to secondary school in the region. A college degree is not as accessible. The nearest university is in Asuncion, and there aren't any scholarships available for Indios. The Yalva Sangha's hope for their future is steadily diminishing. Our journey continues to the constitutional capital of Bolivia, Sucre. Sucre is widely regarded as one of Latin America's most beautiful cities. Its unique downtown is a maze of white, colonial-style buildings under red-tiled roofs, in which visitors often get utterly and thoroughly lost. La unión es la fuerza, unity is strength, is Bolivia's official motto. In many ways, Sucre presents a stark contrast to La Paz. With a comfortable climate and at just 2,800 meters, the city can be quite pleasant. It serves as a kind of showcase for Bolivia. And so does its university, San Francisco Xavier de Chuquisaca. The country's principal museum was once a part of the university, the Casa de la Libertad, the House of Liberty, formerly a Jesuit monastery. On August the 6th, 1825, in this hall, Bolivia's Declaration of Independence from Spain was signed as Simón Bolívar looked on. Bolivia was named after him. The document is preserved here. Sucre celebrates its own independence not once but twice a year, on September the 29th or else on May the 25th. The city's various quarters are free to pick one or the other date. On whichever date, the area's school children join a procession to the statue of Marshal Antonio José de Sucre on the Plaza 25 de Mayo.
We've come together here to commemorate the founding of our beloved city. We're very happy and proud to be Bolivians. Many thanks.
From here we ascend into the highlands of the southwest to an altitude of some 4,000 meters. The Puente Méndez is not open to motor traffic. It's a literal bridge between the well-to-do Spanish-speaking population in Sucre and the Indios of the Potosi. The vast wealth from the silver mines of the Cerro Rico, the Rich Hill, built the city of Potosi, turning it into one of the biggest cities in the world during the early 1600s. The Casa de la Moneda was once the largest mint in the world. Now it's a museum. Today, about 160,000 people remain in Potosi, a large part of them children and teenagers. The youngsters are only the most recent class of people to be exploited as cheap labor in this city. They worked in the mines after the Indios and African slaves. Now boys stand on the Plaza 6 de Agosto and sell papers, earning about €3 a day. Some go on to school afterwards, among them 18-year-old Ariel Galado. He's been working in the streets since he was 9.
Mostly I help my mother. My father doesn't live with us anymore, so I have to do the work. He's living with another woman. Fathers who act like that are the reason I have to work. I have to support my family.
Broken families and missing parents are the main reason that children end up working for a living in the streets. Many of them work in other parts of town, away from their own neighborhoods, because they're ashamed to be seen.
Most of my friends still have both parents, and they don't have to work. They don't know I'm working. There's discrimination. If they don't see me, why should I tell them what I do?
A bit farther down, at an altitude of some 3,600 meters, is one of the Bolivian Altiplano's more spectacular sights, the Salar de Uyuni. With an area of over 10,000 square kilometers, it's the world's largest salt flat. Even when the sun is shining, it can be chilly here. At night, it's bitterly cold. Beneath the salty crust lies a different kind of mineral wealth, lithium, one of the largest deposits on Earth. Bolivia has been doing exploratory drilling. On a barren island out on the salt flats, a lithium research lab is currently under construction. The pilot project was launched in 2008. No one can say exactly how many people work here. The project seems to be cloaked in secrecy. Roads and water and telephone systems had to be installed for it. The lab is to research and develop new processes for extracting lithium, and Bolivia is going it alone, without any foreign scientists or specialists. President Evo Morales has made a radical break from the past, putting simple workers into leadership positions.
Since President Morales has been in office, the way people see things has changed. And how has it changed? That the natural resources developed here benefit us, the Bolivians. That's the big difference. It's not how it used to be.
The islands appear quivering like a mirage floating on the salt flats. The isla in Kawasi, with its 12-meter-tall pipe cactuses, lies far from the banks, in the middle of the salt flats. The view of the flats makes the long, arduous trip worthwhile. It's a 9-hour drive to La Paz. The city appears to line the inside of a vast funnel wedged into the Andes Mountains at an altitude of 4,000 meters. La Paz is the seat of Bolivia's parliament. The parliament building and the presidential palace stand on the Plaza Pedro Domingo Murillo. Evo Morales is Bolivia's first president of indigenous origins. Most Bolivians are Aymara Indios or mestizos with Aymara ancestry. One of Morales' opponents is carried through the city by his supporters, while paid hecklers try to disrupt the rally with calls of Evo. The police are heavily armed. They don't seem to be here just to protect La Paz, the peace. La Paz has a population of not quite 900,000, who are relatively well off compared with the inhabitants of El Alto. La Paz lies about 600 meters lower than El Alto, a big difference at this altitude. It's warmer, life is easier, and altitude sickness is not as much of a problem. Beatriz Canedo Patino, Bolivia's most successful designer, has her shop in the south part of town. Among her clients is President Morales himself. She's brought alpaca wool down from the high plateaus where it's traditionally kept the Indios warm and dry and into the world of high fashion.
There are 24 natural colors in the alpaca. Everything is really natural fibers, organic. Even the lines, which are 100% viscose, as you know, it's a plant. And one thing that we are very proud of the alpaca is that it is 100% waterproof.
The alpaca's natural habitat is in the mountains around La Paz. This herd numbers about 300 head. Beatriz Canedo Patino pays a visit to see the supplier for her alpaca wool. She calls him Senor Bruno. No one around here seems to know his last name, nor exactly how old he is.
But this is the true inspiration of for my designs, you know. The jacket that I am wearing now is a black, sooty, natural jacket. You know, as you can see behind me, there is a black alpaca. And of course the scarf is alpaca as well, but this is dyed with non-harmful chemicals.
Awareness of ecological and non-toxic production is not widespread in Bolivia. Patino would prefer to supervise every step in the process, if she could. She employs only Bolivian workers in her tailor shop and encourages deaf-mute applicants with needed skills. She's also a perfectionist, regularly inspecting the cuts and the finished products. Above La Paz is the town El Alto, the Heights. At one time a quarter of La Paz, but today a rapidly growing municipality of its own. At over 4,000 meters, it's colder than La Paz. This is where the poorest people live, now almost 1 million. They make up the voter base of President Evo Morales and his Socialist Party. Produce from the region is sold in markets on the outskirts of town. Among the stalls is the Witches' Market, the place to go if you wish to cast a spell on your neighbour or catch a glimpse of your future. Herbal powders, resins and dried llama fetuses can help unlock hidden powers or cure what ails you. Mob rule is becoming a problem in Bolivia. The dummies are intended to scare off potential thieves. 36-year-old Rosemarie Bernal, her husband and their 2 children make their home and brave the harsh climate here. The hard life has left its mark on her. Rosemarie has a little grocery store where neighbours can pick up this or that for their daily needs. She works from early morning till late at night to provide for her family.
You have to open the shop very early, so I start out even earlier to pick up the bread. If my shop is open nice and early, I sell more and gain customers.
The children seldom have time to play. When they're not in school, they take turns minding the store. Everyone in the family has to work hard just to scrape by. The journey continues at close to walking pace along the Yungas Road, El Camino de la Muerte, the road of death. Accidents are frequent and nearly always fatal. The steep, single-lane, muddy, foggy, rainy track verges on a 600-metre drop straight down. Estimates range from 1 to 300 deaths per year. The notorious road attracts thrill seekers and extreme athletes by the tens of thousands. Not all survive. At 200 kilometers long and 65 wide, Titicaca is the biggest lake anywhere in Latin America. Its western side lies in Peru, the eastern end in Bolivia. On the Bolivian shore is the Copacabana, a place of pilgrimage, and the original source of the name for the world-famous Copacabana in Brazil. Drivers bring their cars hundreds of kilometers to be baptized here at the foot of the Black Madonna.
Holy Virgin of Copacabana, patron saint of our nation, hear and grant the supplications of your children who have come in devotion, love and faith. They ask for your marvelous heed in the sight of your Son, Jesus Christ, in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen.
Father Diego prays that his flock may not meet with a road accident, an urgent matter given the driving style in Bolivia. It's a solemn occasion for the faithful and a custom widespread in many South American countries, where deep faith is often a blend of Catholicism and pre-Christian beliefs.
In the Inca culture, there was a tradition of making offerings to the god of the sun and the goddess of the moon. Then, when the Catholic priests came, they tried to change the people's way of thinking. They didn't want them to make offerings to the stars, but to Jesus and his mother Mary. The Virgin came here in 1583. The custom of this blessing and people asking for the Holy Virgin's protection comes from that time.
A word of comfort for the car's owners, and the next one drives up. Half the town lives from sales of devotional objects and flowers. The Copacabana was our last stop in Bolivia. The border runs through the lake. In the next part of our series, we press on to Peru.